Good afternoon. We're going to call the Promotions and Hiring Committee to order at 6:09 p.m. at the Perkins office on August 27th, 2024. We welcome everyone. Thank you for attending and joining us via live stream. We're going to conduct the official roll call. Commissioner Adams, Co-Chair Adams, Commissioner Benito,
Oh, it's not on present.
Commissioner Alana Garrett Ferguson. She's not able to attend.
Connected.
Commissioner Rodriguez, present. And then we have Commissioner Ridgway, and then we have Commissioner Wong.
I have a question. Wasn't this supposed to be a joint accountability and police promotions meeting? That's what
Okay.
it said online. So where is accountability? There's only one member right now.
Thank you. So we're going to proceed forward with meeting decorum. With meeting decorum, everyone is encouraged to participate. Please keep comments to 3 minutes or under. If we have any comments or concerns, please step to the mic, state your name and where you live. If you already, we welcome all ideas and we would allow everybody an opportunity to speak to ensure that they are brief and to the point. One person speaks at a time. Please refrain from side conversations and try your best to understand the pros and cons of every perspective, just so we can be fair and objective. If there's any concerns, community members can follow up via clecpc@clevelandohio.gov. Are there any additional items that should be added to the agenda?
Oh, I think someone's trying to get into the building.
That's what I was doing. Let me see.
If yours is working, Kim?
Okay, so there's something's not connected into something.
If I have, I even talk loud and I borrow. Yeah.
We can pass to him, Oh yeah, John and I can just do something.
Yeah, it might be, I'll have to go in and look at what the actual.
We'll do that. No worries.
Thank you.
So just a question, if I may,
Oh, Rosa said it didn't work till I heard.
Chair Rodriguez, is this will basically be regarding the IG, not the commanders, right?
Right.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure that.
But they're both under the
That's
decision.
not.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we were not discussing the commanders' positions tonight, that was all, yeah.
Any further additions to the agenda? Okay, so then we're gonna go into our PowerPoint presentation.
Did you skip public comment? You have no public comment. I would like to speak.
Public comment is at the end.
It's at the beginning now.
Okay, please.
Thank you.
Please,
So-
don't do that.
You're just
We're
doing
going
this
to
intentionally.
No, don't do
You are
that.
doing this
Continue.
intentionally.
Stop
It's on
it.
the
You are-
agenda at the end.
Why is it at the end? This committee should not even be meeting because you're not supposed to be doing this work. And you are
Okay.
hiding it under, how many, you are
So
just
we
hiding
heard your
things.
point of view.
No.
It's taken.
This
Thank
is
you
a-
so much.
this
We're
is
going to
complete
proceed
censorship.
forward. Okay, so
This
for
is
slide
absolute
one,
censorship.
it was
This is
placed
not
on
assault.
the
She's
CP.
claiming I
Let it
assaulted her.
Let it go, let it go,
Police
let it go,
officer,
let it go.
please. You said that.
Commissioner Adams,
Do you understand what
Co-Chair
sexual
Reg-
harassment is? Do you understand
Benito.
lying? No, I don't need to stop,
Let it go.
Chandra. You guys are just
Let's
completely
continue to
censoring
slide
something
one.
that's not supposed to
It
even
was
occur.
placed on the CPC website on August 29, 2004 at 4:59 p.m. Please feel free to go to our website at https
Disallowing public comment is a violation of the First Amendment.
.org/pc.org. Come on, I need to reel y'all back in.
Violation of the First
Get
Amendment.
involved
Intimidation.
under that
of a public
tab,
official.
calendar of, under the event calendar, click
Everybody
on the
can see what you are
meeting,
doing.
and then please review the agenda and additional items. Thank you to Ms. Sandusky for placing these items. Can you please continue to the next slide? So basically, the purpose is to review the Inspector General position. The initial search began in May 2023, but the So candidate decided to pursue other endeavors, so that's why we are revisiting this to ideally select a candidate. Thank you so much for the commissioners involved. We are aware that, we have various perspectives and your input has been very beneficial. So under the consent decree, it has a number of different duties, such as reviewing the policies and practices to determine with state, federal law, the effectiveness of bias-free and community policing, basically to ensure procedural justice and whether they promote officer as well as public safety. Audit compliance with policies and procedures, conduct investigation, analyze trends. So, and additionally, an additional task is to develop specific recommendations and reform concerning different policies, procedures, practices, and training to improve police and accountability. Under the consent decree is to analyze investigations conducted by OPS to determine whether they're timely, complete, thorough. As we know, OPS became a independent body, so that is still a negotiation and how this fits, this specific role in that as well. Collect and analyze all sustained findings and the discipline imposed to assess the trends and determine whether discipline is consistently applied, fair, and basis on whatever allegations. Reports and recommendations for reform publicly, make sure that they're available to the public. The IG serves as an independent authority with essential duties. It is important for all the stakeholders, such as it builds community confidence. It represents a commitment to accountability and justice by reviewing the different policies and practice. And basically, the IG safeguards our community against any kind of bias or misconduct. For officers, they provide support by ensuring consistent discipline and practices, analyzing trends of any possible risk in hopes to prevent future occurrences and perform reform suggestions, ultimately enhancing institutional integrity. For city leadership and legal compliance, the IG ensures the department is in compliance with legal and regulatory requirements, reducing the risk of litigation and improving overall governance. It is imperative that we select the right candidate and is taken seriously. They can reduce future consent decrees and things of that nature. So thank you so much for working on this important issue. Are we on slide 5? You went too fast, yeah. Oh, yep. So basically, in the consent decree, the amended consent decree, this structure was negotiated, and the Inspector General has now been moved from CPD chain of command and now reports to the Director of Public Safety, independent of the Chief of Police, under City Charter 115-5 in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety. And basically, the graph is basically the hiring plan and indicates where we are on the process. A joint meeting occurred on the August 20th with the following representatives: Dr. Lee Anderson of Police Accountability, the Executive Director; Christopher Valland, who is Director of Public Safety. He was the previous Inspector General from 2019 to 2021, and then he moved to Internal Affairs from 2021 to 2024, and he's recently was promoted to the Director of Public Safety. We had Jason Schechner, who is the Assistant Director of Public Safety; Delonte Spencer Thomas, who is the City of Cleveland Chief of Ethics Officer; Carlos Johnson, who is City of Cleveland. I believe he's the Assistant Director. Huh? Oh, he's in Police Accountability. Hannah was there as well. And the Cleveland Community Police representatives was John Adams, Sharina Zayed, Adriana Rodriguez. Communication occurred with, of course, Commissioner Benito and Co-Chair Adams prior to the meeting, just to ensure that we were discussing and we were on the same page. Yep. And prior to the meeting, our representatives were expected to review our candidates and be prepared with top picks. As is indicated in the charter, we make recommendations for candidates. Yeah, okay, candidates were selected based on the following criteria outlined in the job description: may not be a current or former employee of the Cleveland Division of Police, a bachelor's degree from an accredited four-year college or university is required. Those in business or public administration field are preferred. A Juris Doctorate or a master's degree is preferred. 7 to 10 years of full-time professional experience in law enforcement practices, investigations, police oversight, and civil rights law is preferred. 5 years experience as an inspector general, certified public accountant, auditor, licensed attorney, law enforcement officer, or other investigative officer in supervisory or basically managerial experience was preferred.
Just a quick question. So this spreadsheet reflects a vetting process that was done prior to it coming to the commission members, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And you reviewed what was sent
The best we could.
the best you could, right? Okay.
Including that application material.
Right, okay. I just wanted to make sure that this was done prior to coming. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you review, there are a number of candidates who may not have met certain criteria, whether it's a bachelor's degree or whether it's certain experience within law enforcement, within a certain either law enforcement oversight or civil rights. So there might have been a variety of ways that the candidates may have been narrowed down. And because the presentation was sent ahead of time, we're not going to go into depth and tell everyone. We just wanted to ensure that we were able to provide an explanation so that we may not be aware of what we're looking at. So hopefully this provides a little bit more in depth. The numbers column is the candidate number from 1 to 38 and the different criteria, either a yes or no. There was one depending on different state requirements. That the way they entered a certain position was different than Ohio. So that was a question mark, but they were not within the top 5. Okay, so the next slides will consist of a summary, and that was to ensure that confidentiality of personal information was ensured and protected. So there was a summary of professional experiences and major achievements, and any request can be given by the public records. And the phone number is 216-623-5352, weekends from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 601 Lakeside Ave. And then that is the link that if you would like to press it for your convenience. As we see, our candidates have a variety of different experiences. The candidates that were kind of selected by all the stakeholders is candidate 1, candidate 14, candidate 10, which decided that they would like to rescind their application and pursue other endeavors. Candidate 26, candidate 23, candidate 36. Yep, 5 top candidates. So I'm going to repeat that again. Candidate 1, candidate 14, candidate 10, but they rescinded their application to pursue other endeavors. Candidate 26, candidate 23, and candidate 36. The Department of Public Safety has conducted their interviews between August 28th, between the hours of 1200 and 1600, and August 29th, between 10:30 and 14:30. So the next step in the process is basically to solidify how we're going to pursue forward. The next step is to interview the candidates and basically this is just some rough questions of different things and to get input from the commissioners that's here as well as the public to see if there's anything that they would like to include. So basically, the themes are experience and qualifications. Can you describe your personal experiences and how they have prepared you for the role of Inspector General? Understanding of the role. What specific goals would you set for your first year in the position? How would you ensure the independence of your office while working within a city government framework? Accountability and transparency. Describe a time when you had to lead a team through a challenging audit or investigation. How did you ensure the integrity and thoroughness of the process? Transparency and reporting. How would you balance the need for transparency with the need to maintain the confidentiality of sensitive investigations? How would you approach situations where there is a significant public outcry for transparency, but legal or procedural limitations that restrict the release of information? What approaches would you take to ensure that your findings are accessible and understanding to the general public? Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was, I went to you.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was the second page.
Dealing with resistance. How would you respond if you encounter resistance from within the police department or other city agencies in carrying out your duties? Can you share an experience where you successfully overcame resistance to an oversight or accountability initiative? Policy and reform. How do you stay informed about best practices and innovations in law enforcement oversight and accountability? What do you think the Inspector General should play in police reform efforts, particularly in the context of the consent decree that the city of Cleveland is under? Of course, we want to ensure that they have some kind of idea of how to measure success. How would you ensure that the recommendations from your office are implemented effectively within the Cleveland Division of Police? So I open it up to the floor.
To the chair, and mine, basically,
Sorry.
mine are basically questions for clarification. So, were all 38 candidates or a portion of those interviewed prior to that list coming to the commission? No. So are the only interviews to be done by this, the commission? And I'm using that term to whether it's one person or two, but it's the commission. Would there be another interview round outside of the commission?
Just doing one.
So it's one set, even when we're done and we send the results in, those 5 candidates would not be interviewed again.
So
Okay, so I understand.
You see what I'm saying?
the depart, how do I turn this on? Oh, hold it. So there's kind of two processes happening simultaneously. So they reviewed the candidates and made that spreadsheet, and then they sent that to us. And even though we reviewed that spreadsheet, we also checked the qualifications ourselves in using the resumes and cover letters that were included. And so then they are continuing with their interview process, and then we're doing a simultaneous interview process. So the dates that Commissioner Rodriguez just outlined on the 28th and 29th, those were their interviews. They selected their own candidates for interviews, and
That's
then
where I'm
our
headed.
yeah,
That's
and
where I'm
then
headed.
based on our review, we selected our own interview, our own candidates to interview, and then that's what we're talking about now is scheduling those interviews. And so the two processes are happening at the same time.
So what if the 5 candidates that have been selected by the commission, what if that list is separate from the list of the others? How is
voted
that?
So all the stakeholders voted on. So we reviewed it and we selected our candidate.
So we reviewed it and they had their notes and we had our notes. So there might be people on, say, public safety that we may not have agreed on, and then we said no, based on a consensus. So there might be something that we might have seen.
But you don't do that.
So right now, we all selected the top 5 and we all voted and
Okay.
we all agreed. So,
That's fine.
yeah,
Everybody is
yeah.
on. I
so
got it.
then they're gonna conduct their interviews and, they're gonna have maybe an idea, or I don't know what they have different questions, right? And they might narrow it down again. Cause they're going to round 2. We're not going to round 2.
Okay, so I just want to simplify just a little bit for my understanding and maybe for the public who's viewing this as well. So these 5 candidates are being interviewed by both the commission and this group of
Public
the
safety.
public safety group. And when the results are completed,
We'll have 2 separate
you have 2 separate recommendations. And there will be a vote, I assume, to determine who is the
So-
best candidate out of those? No.
The mayor will appoint.
Gotcha.
public
Appoint or
safety-
select? There's a difference. Is he
Mayor.
selecting or is he appointing?
He's first. He's gonna appoint.
It's not in the charter, it's in the.
We just have recommendations.
Yeah, we
Okay,
just recommend,
that's
so that's why I wanted to acknowledge that. So I'm gonna,
Thank you.
we,
Thank you.
so because we have recommendations, right? We don't have the final decision per se. So we will send our nominations and our recommendations in based on the information. So that's why we're asking, do you have any questions based on these sets of questions? Do you feel like you can have a recommendation based on the questions that was just asked and presented? Is there anything else that you would like to see? I'm gonna get to you. So that might help make your determination or help solidify the process. But the way it works is public safety are interviewing. They had their first round of interviews. We are going to interview, make recommendations, and then we're gonna send our recommendations, and then they're gonna narrow it down. So they're gonna have round 2.
Good, thank you. I just needed to clarify the process. Thank you.
And then based on that information, my understanding is the mayor will appoint. So I don't know, anything. Yeah, I don't know how that appointment process is gonna go, but we'll all have our recommendations and we'll all pass our suggestions. So, Commissioner Wong.
So, I can't help, if you handed me the mic, I wouldn't have had to touch you. Is this on? This is on hold for 2 seconds.
All right, my concern, if you could be a little bit more precise, instead of saying we, it's a little confusing for the public. Are you referring to the people that went into this meeting with the city, made the decision about the 5 people? How did you select, who selected from the commission, who selected the 5 candidates that in agreement with the city? And how was that
The
process?
committee.
The committee, but Ms. Benito was not there, right? It was just,
Well, we had a conversation, we talked about it before. She actually sent me a formal, email, what she felt, based on her suggestions. So the candidates were divided up and we created summaries. As the chair, I reviewed it to ensure, just to touch base, make sure. And basically we kind of reviewed the summary. So overall, the candidates that were selected were those that had previous IG experience. If you reviewed the spreadsheet, there were a number of candidates that didn't meet certain qualifications or that were outlined in the job description. So that kind of narrowed down the process. So basically the candidates that met the criteria in the job description are essentially getting an interview.
well, so my question is, did you review the resumes or did you just review the summary that you're presenting right now when you selected that helped
We made
them?
those summaries.
You made those summaries, so you had access, I just want on record, you had access to the resumes of all these applicants, 38 of them, and you read the resumes and you made a determination without the commission, the full commission, seeing any of this information, and still the commission has not been given this information. And I want to push back on one of them because it's not everybody, I looked at the candidates, not everybody has an inspector general experience. What I think is missing in the candidates, from what I can tell, which is not very much because I don't have the resumes, is a distinct lack of quantitative analytical experience. And there's one that was the inspector for the state of Ohio, an auditor for the state of Ohio, but that didn't make it into the number 5. And this is generally probably going to be the problem with the inspector general, is that data is what will make the inspector general succeed.
Mhm.
Because the politics in Cleveland are a little bit rough.
Mhm.
And to expect a person to come in and navigate that, but the data, because the evidence and the information, the truth is what will, and if they can publish these reports to the community, that is going to give power to the inspector general. But what I'm concerned about is that I don't see, maybe it's somewhere else on the resume, so I would love to see those resumes, where I don't see in the 5, except for that there's a senior vice president of private equity. I hardly think that is close to inspector general as one of your candidates. But there are people that with auditing experience, accounting experience, so a lot of quantity that are not included in this list. So I don't want you to give the impression that the people with the experience are actually being selected. And again, please explain to me why, and to the community, why 5 commissioners who were not assigned this task were given the task to look at the resumes. The other commissioners, Commissioner Ridgway and I, have not seen these resumes at all. I would like to see the resumes. So since I'm a commissioner, could you send me the resumes? If you've seen them, I should be able to see them. I'm no different from you. Unless you're treating me differently as a member of the public, which you are trying to do, which might be a violation of law. But I'm just asking for the public. It seems like a very untransparent process that 5 of you are working with 5 other members of the city, and then we don't even have final recommendation power. We don't even go through a round 2. The other thing about the questions again, don't ask about anything that is concrete about the skills, about the analytical skills, about the quantitative skills.
Thank you so
So-
much.
Please answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. So we're there is a whole department dedicated to data. I just want the public to be aware of that, and then we're gonna proceed forward. So are there any additional questions that we would like to add?
You mean from the public?
It could be open.
Are you asking about general public comments or?
No, not
this?
public comment.
Okay,
Just
all
for
right.
the questions, we're trying to narrow down our process to, we're gonna do the candidate interview. So based on that, are we gonna be able to make a recommendation based on those questions? I know we got off into a little bit of commentary.
Yeah.
So maybe we should go back to the first slide of those different questions to see if there's anything that should be added. If not, we're in agreement, and then maybe
So I have a question.
it's not public comment yet.
No.
Okay.
We, the public, were able to watch the interview. Is that going to happen again?
Yeah,
'Cause I
that's
did
what
watch
I'm
that.
hoping.
Okay. And I just wanted to say I was very impressed with the presentation.
Thank you. We did it as a collective.
I saw it online, so, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think one thing I just wanted to be clear about for the public is that the Commissioner Wong outlined what they saw in one of the candidates, and the list that you put up was not a list of all of the applicants we chose. You read out the numbers of the people who were recommended, and the list on the screen just showed the list of all the numbers. So many of the ones that were on the screen are not people who were selected to move on to the interview round. And as you clarified, the people who were chosen to continue on our interview process were people who had previous inspector general experience. And I think that one thing is, I do think that as Commissioner Wong pointed out, any inspector general position has expectations of conducting research and studies and data analysis. And so someone with a previous inspector general experience will have experience with that. And, there were a number of things that we saw that showed, I think, a strong ability of the candidates to engage in that kind of work. But I think to Commissioner Wong's point, I think that it would be good to include a question about their data analysis skills. Talk us through how a study that they conducted that they're particularly proud of, or talk us through some of the research methods that you use and your strengths in data analysis and research. So I don't think that that's a bad thing to add.
Commissioner Wong?
So I would like to clarify again, the questions that you have, are these the only questions the commissioners will be able to ask? So you're limiting the questions that the commissioners are able to ask, which could be dependent on the candidate, right? There could be certain things in their record that we see that we have questions about. So how are you going to be able to adapt this? And so you're basically having a cookie cut. So this actually, I'm having a little bit of deja vu because for the public to know, this is the second time that we've done the Inspector General interview process. And I have to say, the first time it was run a little bit better, if I may say respectfully. Mr. Donaldson was approached, again, another ad hoc committee that was meant for the executive director hiring committee. Delonte Spencer Thomas approached him and asked that committee to interview all of the candidates. Mr. Donaldson, to his credit, did not agree with that and said it should be the entire commission. And then I looked at some of the questions and noticed that the questions given to the candidates were the same questions that the city had asked them. So it really doesn't serve any type of benefit, especially because we are a community-facing commission. We need to ask questions that the community may have. And now we're reproducing this entire process. And it just seems like, why are we putting up this show for the community when there's no transparency here? If you're going to stage these questions, do the candidates already know these questions? Because it's been published online, so I guess they know. So that, I guess, eliminates any element of surprise. Not that we want to trap them, but it's already public. So, my gosh, I mean, I would be preparing this and
That's okay.
getting my chat GPT ready and answering those questions. And that hardly is a good way of finding the improper Inspector General.
Okay, so we're gonna follow up because I know it has been mentioned about IHOC. According to Robert Rules of Order, ad hoc can be appointed by chairs, right? So if we have any concerns about the process, we may have to think about that our first initial round began in May 10th, 2023. So with all due respect, we have ample enough time to develop any kind of processes, solidify any kind of questions. So now it's time to actually perform an action. I appreciate all the different perspectives. And now we're going to move forward with any questions that need to be answered. Would there be anything that you would like to add? Is there anything that you would like to add?
So how did these questions and all the process get developed?
Is
It was developed not.
Is there a question?
It's like, why?
To the chair, so I thought the point of this meeting was for us to be able to generate questions. I thought so there can be critiques of anything. The critiques are fine. But what we need to leave with are questions that are going to help us to get the best information that we can get out of these candidates. So I have a question that I would like to be considered. So I think that where we need to be right now is solutions, and then we can debate or discuss so we can come to a best, some good stuff. I wanted something to the effect, I noticed I just wrote it down while we were, I was looking at the presentation, so it may not be, pristine. I said, a question to something like, how do you approach complicated data, and how would you communicate the findings of that data to the community in a way that is concise and accessible? Because I think that one of the things that can happen, there's every profession has its jargon. And when you're in that profession, the jargon just all kind of makes sense to you, but we have to deal with different levels of community members and, their access to information. So I would be curious to know, how would you take lots of complicated data and not just write a report for people of maybe certain education levels and things like that, but I want to know how they're going to communicate this information to an average member of the public.
Yeah. And understanding Cleveland literacy rates, right? Which is as a 67%, right? So to the chair, I think both your comments are good comments, and I think they would address two areas of a candidate's ability. One would be the data collection and the interpretation of that data, but also what Commissioner Adams has added is the opportunity to see how they communicate. So that's a communication piece that's part of this. I also want to say that just because these are the questions, it does not mean that we can't do a follow-up question based on what the applicant have and applicant responds, So yeah, these are the core questions. But if they say something that we don't understand, or they introduce something that we want to hear a little bit more about, as interviewers, we can ask, could you expound on that? Could you add a little bit more, give us an understanding, about how this works or whatever. So this is a core set of questions, but we don't limit, any follow-up questions. That's based on the applicant and how they respond to the question. And then I'm gonna add something. So that's true, but you have to be mindful because we have 5 different candidates. You don't want to ask candidate Benito something and not ask the rest,
Right,
because then you may be, oh, okay, that I didn't get that job because of that question, or so there has to be some level of fairness, some level of impartiality. We don't want to make it easier on one candidate and harder on another.
Exactly.
So just throw that nugget in. Commissioner Benito.
Point well taken, but I agree with Commissioner Ridgway on, I think that even though you want to make it fair, I think it also is really important if we have follow-up questions to be able to ask, because if someone doesn't respond well, if they can't handle follow-up questions, even if it makes their interview harder than another person, they're probably not the right person for the job. And I do think it's important for us to be able, because there might be things that we catch in responding to a question, with follow-up, that might be really important for us to know. So I do think that there should be that flexibility. I agree that I think that this was a fantastic core set of questions, and I really like the question that Dr. Adams added. And I think that these are excellent, and I think that it would be important for us to be able to ask follow-up questions. And maybe we could put some parameters around that, like, but I don't know what that could look like, but I do think it's important for us to be able to be responsive to what's happening in the interview.
And the other thing I would want to add to that is there's always a possibility that you recommend nobody. It's always possible you're like, okay, we narrowed the list down. We don't like the interviews. We're recommending none of them. I mean, as a candidate, when I prepare for a position that I want, I look at the job description of that position and I prepare myself for it. So if they don't prepare themselves properly for these interviews, we probably don't want them anyway. So I just feel that we have to create a space and we have to craft questions for the interview that allow them to show us their best selves. This is not about micromanaging a potential inspector general or interrogating them. They need to sell themselves to us as well, because they need us to believe that they could do this job and to recommend them. So I just want to put it out there that if the interviews don't go well and we don't get the information, they also have to come prepared because they have a job description and they know what they've applied for. So I just want to just throw it out there that recommending nobody is also a possibility in this process.
So I'm just being cautious of the integrity, integrity inside, because that's not where we want to go on. And every commissioner is different in how they approach things and how they engaged, So we got to be mindful of that too, right? Commissioner Wong.
So I feel like, again, we're going backwards. If I can direct you to, we already have questions from our last session. And again, these questions we gathered, I mean, they're very extensive. Did you look at that document that we came up with for Mr. Muir? Because they are, so none of those.
I was part of the interview.
these things actually occurred. It seems that we had pretty good questions from a myriad, a diversity of commissioners at a time that I think commissioners were still mostly dedicated to having an independent process. The other issue is, again, I like Commissioner Ridgway said exactly what I was thinking. When you ask a Inspector General how to communicate complex data, that is a communication issue. That is not an analytical issue. May I recommend that you sit down and write the dimensions of types of skills that you would need from, there's a speaking skill, there's a writing skill, there's a math and analytical skill, and what we're not getting down to, and I'm going to be brass tacks about this, if the Inspector General does not know what to measure, you will never understand what is actually happening. So that is a course foundational skill. They could always hire someone that's a better writer than them. They can always hire a press person. But the core skill is mathematical, statistical, and analytical. And it has nothing, and then we have Inspector Generals that probably served in more managerial roles. That is not the same as the analytics that's necessary. And frankly, I've never seen any real reports from that data analysis team. I don't even have data. I mean, when I talk to the commander, they don't even know the data that exists about use of force. But again, we have a list of, it's very clear to me at least, and I hope the public will see what is happening. These are political questions. These are politicized questions, especially the one that says, how do you balance the need for transparency with the need to maintain confidentiality? Well, that doesn't just scream out, we're not going to give the public access to data. Yes, it does. These are the same questions that, what approaches? These are all kind of political questions. What specific goals? Maybe that's a little bit more concrete. How will you ensure the independence of your office? Well, the insurance of the independence
Do you have a
of the
question
office.
you would like to ask?
So,
Or are you recommending that we can use
I'm
the previous
recommending that we
question?
rewrite all these questions and we gather feedback from the entire commission.
Okay, so would you
Because
like to use
apparently
the
there are two
previous set
commissioners-
or this set?
What?
Would you like to use the previous set? Is that what you're
It's not
recommending?
about using the previous, that we now know more about the situation in Cleveland. This asks a lot about political independence. We should be able to author questions. I would suggest that you send out a plea for questions and all the commissioners can send that. I know that's actual work, that some commissioners may not want to do. And I'm getting laughed at when I'm asking for the Inspector General to have some quantitative skills. So I'm not the one that's existing in reality. This commission will be if it only uses these questions.
So I would like the public to be aware, and I have mentioned that there are 2 staff people that I would like to ensure that is, again, highlighted. Public Safety Director now, who was the previous Inspector General, as well as serving in the Internal Affairs. So he has used he printed a number of reports, utilized a number of different data sets that this person will be working with, as well as the previous, I'm trying to say straight, Dr. Anderson, who has trained a lot of different Inspector Generals. So I think that we will be able to recommend a candidate that will be able to utilize the tools at their disposal. Okay. A number of candidates have had different experience in different offices with Inspector General. I just wanted to ensure I place that in the public's public record. Okay, so back to the question. Are we okay with this set, or would we like to use the previous set? Okay, so we're okay with this set. Okay. Can we please move forward to the next slide?
Take a vote on it, so there's a record, please, that you voted for this set.
Should I take?
Yeah,
Okay.
take a vote.
Can we please place a motion?
We also
No,
added.
We're gonna add those
Yeah.
questions,
Data and communication.
but no, we probably should take a formal vote. No, that's fine.
You should be on record for the decisions that you made.
We're on the public record.
Done.
I move to approve the set of interview questions with the additional questions that we discussed.
Which
I'll second.
Well, I'm not sure.
You sure? Please,
Okay. What?
Commissioner Benito?
Are you asking for my vote?
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez, aye.
I mean, just
So the question was on the adoption to utilize those questions. Motion carried.
I'm just gonna say just to make sure we're safe, I'm gonna vote aye. If there are not 3 members of the committee, the co-chair can step in and to vote. So, okay, I'm not talking to you. Just to be safe, I'm gonna vote aye, just to make sure that it's on the record and that this is legit.
But you're not even part of the committee.
Neither are you.
I know, so they can't vote as.
So why are you at the table?
She's not a part of the
Sorry,
committee.
I'll
either.
just shut up.
Just, okay, I know
That this is an important role and we're very passionate about it. I think that we all want to see Cleveland prosper. And I think we all can agree, especially the Inspector General has an important role when we think about it. Waste, abuse, fraud. That's essentially what this role does. And it's over the 6 different departments in public safety. So it's just not police, it's EMS, it's animal safety. So that's why this role is so crucial to all stakeholders. Commissioner Ridgway.
Thank you, to the chair. I think it's also important that we recognize that our questions are not the only questions being asked. You know, that this other committee is also asking questions. So the answers together will determine who is the best candidate for this position. So I just think we need to be aware that we aren't asking questions in isolation. They're also being done by the other commission. The other group as well. I just think we need to be aware of that. And I'm speaking more for the benefit of the public, that we are not the only ones. And I should not say this, but I think it's important to say this for the record. When we interviewed for the last commissioner, if I'm not mistaken, we had very, very critical comments about the process from Commissioner Wong. So, it isn't always best to go back and pick up. We want to learn from that process and make this a better process. And I think we have, I think that's what is happening now. So it isn't necessary to go back and pick up questions that were done before that were criticized in writing, from the last process. So I just want to say that because I think this is the time that we move forward. We look at past experiences, we look at the best from those experiences, and we look at those pieces and parts that we don't want to repeat this time. So I just wanted to make this that comment aware for the public as well.
Okay, so this is just to see, do we think we need a rubric? Last time, basically, we had a form and we just put our comments. Do we want to do that, or do we want to incorporate a rubric that has like a form of scoring that commissioners can attach with their narrative? Something was sent in email that can be an example, but it can be more formalized. So I just wanted to know thoughts.
My thoughts on that would be, I think it would be better if people wrote their comments down and their reasoning behind them down. I mean, we know we need to be able to explain and justify why we're making the decision that we're making. So I kind of like the idea of writing down why we made the choice that we made. But if we do that, I would like to specify maybe at least like some categories that we want to make sure that are addressed in that explanation.
Oh, okay. So maybe because the questions had like different categories, so maybe those are the categories they can think of, but it's open if they think about something else, but some things that they might want to consider.
I think one thing is if you do like a rubric, a scoring system, if we have different commissioners at each of the interviews, I think that
Different commissions.
So we gotta see, it depends on, so we're gonna talk about process.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think, let's talk about process first and then come back to this question, because I think that will kind of
Okay.
inform us.
Okay. Can we go to the next slide? So, just some ideas. So, given the challenges posed by various geographic locations, in-person interviews will be difficult, very similar to the first one, especially with 5 candidates. Therefore, all interviews for Inspector General will be conducted, in my idea, live stream like the last one. Ideally, it will be recorded. I was thinking like similar to the grant process. And then that way we can all see them. And because everybody has different schedules, so the goal is to be open. And then this allows the public and maybe other stakeholders to view the interviews, and maybe they might have some helpful feedback that they may well like to provide as well. Commissioners will be tasked with completing the Public Safety Inspector General Community Police Commission interview form. And basically on that form, it has different questions. So it asks about the strength demonstrated by the candidate, areas for improvement, because that, allows us to continue to improve and see where they might have a weakness and that candidate might need some additional support, right? We all have strengths and weaknesses. Well, areas for improvement, right? Professional qualities, assess how the candidate's professional attributes may contribute to or hinder their effectiveness in fulfilling the responsibilities of the Public Safety Inspector General for the Public Safety Inspector General for the City of Cleveland. As we mentioned, there are some key skills such as ensuring data. You may want to assess communication and those variety of skills that you feel are important to this role. This is the place that you may want to list that. All the completed forms will be collected by the interim executive director or the designated staff person, and we will compile the information and prepare an executive summary. How does that sound?
To the chair, that number 3, if I'm not mistaken, that's the piece that Donaldson did before. He collected all that,
Yep.
put it in an
That's
executive summary, the same similar process then, okay.
So I'm just seeing
Yeah.
if we would like to update it. Is there anything that we would like to add that may help to, make this a more efficient process? Because we like to reflect and evaluate and continue to grow.
I just wanted to add, I think this part 2, where you lay out the feedback, that's exactly what I will want to use that.
Okay,
I
so
can
we
list all their strengths, list the areas that of concern or improvement, and then list these other qualities that match up with the job description. So I just think that my previous comment, this is kind of what I was thinking about.
I think the only thing is it was down to 2 candidates. And so also as part of this, we made a recommendation of which candidate we would select. And so I think that's one question, is if people don't see all the interviews, or do we want to, as part of this, say, we recommend this person, each commissioner, it could be done that each commissioner says, I attended these interviews. Of these interviews,
So ideally, they would be live streamed and hopefully recorded.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I would need to
everybody
talk.
should watch.
Yeah. So ideally, we all can watch because it was different. We had one candidate, so we can make time.
Yeah.
So similar to the budget and grants, where we were able to watch them.
Yeah, I like that idea. And then, because I do think at the end there should be, in addition to answering these questions, I think we should be saying who we would recommend for
Okay,
the
so that could
position. Yeah. And then, but I like the expectation that obviously if you can't attend in person, you should be watching the interviews, which is exactly what we did for. Yeah.
Yes.
You could attest that I watched.
Just to the chair, just one more comment. sometimes I am a little bit uncomfortable looking at areas for improvement. Sometimes what we need to be asking, and I don't have the language for it right now. Can you hit the ground running? Because if they're not in the Cleveland area, that may be where you would put that there is a learning curve, in terms of learning the dynamics in our city. Yes, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's an area for improvement. That just means that these are areas where some additional work may need to be done coming in the door. Not that we don't have to have that, but somehow we need to know, if you're selected, are you going to be able to hit the ground running? And that's a different thing. And I think I remember assessing before, saying this person doesn't know the city of Cleveland. It's not a reason not that he shouldn't get the job. Everything else indicated that he had the ability to come in and learn this city, to be able to work effectively. So those are the kinds of things that, I don't know, maybe we can put something in parentheses or slash it and put something else other than just area of improvement.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas of what you would call that?
I know you
Areas of support.
Well, I'm also trying to think.
Support areas.
Yeah, areas of support needed, or
That could actually be a good question.
Yeah.
Like, where are some areas
Yeah.
that you feel like that maybe they can suggest that I need to know? I don't know.
That-
That could be
because the reality is we want to know how much self-awareness is there.
yeah, absolutely.
How much do you know about what you can do and where you feel that there is additional support needed? And if there is no self-awareness there, that may mean something that we want to look at a little bit closer in terms of a selection.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wong.
So I think Commissioner Ridgway brings up a good point. However, the support that the person needs might be much more structural. Cleveland is not under a second consent decree for no reason. And the level of corruption and of is famous throughout the nation. I've talked to people. So I think that what I would suggest is that we have a previous inspector general. He hasn't been in that position for a very long time. So this is a very important Chris Valand. We should probably ask him what structural, he has personal obstacles that he might have faced, but that may not, what are the structural obstacles that he faced? Because I think we're personifying it way too much. It's not about the person. It is about the structure of the police in Cleveland, of the public safety department. And to remind the public, this position was first under the police chief, now under the public safety chief. Unfortunately, the public safety chief is the same person as the previous police chief. So ironically, we are still stuck in the same structure, and I don't see, we have plenty of information. Mr. Valand has gone through basically every watchdog position that is in the county, from sheriff to IA commander. Have you asked him what, to write some questions or to give from a community perspective, because our service is to the community. Have you asked him what he faced? And I would like to also know how effective he was, because we're going to be paying this person, $90,000 to $120,000. We want them to succeed. And a lot of the impediments will be, as what we have faced in the commission, is a lack of access to records, a lack of access to information, which is pretty pivotal. And if this has to be an independent position, this person doesn't even have the ability to rely on 12 other people to be independent. They have to be able to have the fortitude to do it by themselves. So are we going to ask?
So I'm going to respond to your question. I appreciate your dialogue and your passion and your commitment to the Inspector General role. I would like to kind of mention and highlight this again. Christopher Valand is part of the selection committee. He is the director of public safety, and they are doing their interviews as well. So he will be able to provide support, as well as Dr. Anderson. Our questions are to really focus on gaining the Cleveland Commission and how we may interface with them and how they may interact with the community. So definitely making sure that their reports is accessible and readable to the community, and how they may handle resistance and transparency. We're doing 2 separate interviews, as we have mentioned, and they have their set of questions to try to hone in on those various perspectives and different barriers, or the overall job description that you have mentioned, to try to select the candidate that they feel are the best fit. They are conducting 2 rounds of interviews. So, going back to the process, how do we feel about this process? Is there anything that we would like to add? Anything that we feel?
Just adding a space for recommendation of a candidate.
Okay, and then, okay.
And I like Commissioner Ridgway's point as well, adding some additional language to the areas for improvement question.
When is this gonna happen?
So we have to schedule the interviews with the candidates. So I cannot provide an answer at that time. Ideally, we will send a public notice. Yeah. So our goal is to have it within a week. So ideally, I'm going to work with staff so they can schedule the interviews. I just want to ensure that we had our process, we had questions, and an idea of how it's going to transpire. Of course, there might be some additional things that may need to transpire. So I guess I got one more point, and then I'll get to you. So for these Common Core questions, should we divide them up among the committee? How's that sound? And then maybe leave some time for
Who asked them?
leave
We
some time.
assigned it before? Did we assign the questions?
Mhm.
We had the questions, but did we assign those questions?
I don't know.
I don't
So
remember.
long ago, it was like literally a year and a half ago.
Oh my gosh, we have questions from every
It was
commissioner.
a year and a half.
Yeah, everybody
So much has happened
participated,
since
but
then.
I don't know whether they were assigned ahead of time. Yeah, I don't remember.
So
And now the candidates know the questions ahead of time.
I have to be open. I have to be transparent.
That's okay, we'll see how good they are.
I would suggest that, the members of the committee, we, round robin style and just.
And then we can leave some time for commissioners if they want to
Like
ask
that,
some
yeah.
questions.
We said that committee members are going to get the ability to ask more questions when they've already seen the candidates more. I mean, you're just stacking
So,
more power.
Clear, we haven't seen any candidate. We only review materials. So it seems like we have a process in place. We want to ensure that we are not passing on misinformation. We want to ensure that the process is clear and laid out. There is some room for flexibility. I did hear the committee say that there may be some questions that they may want to follow up, so we can leave a portion of the meeting for that. How does that sound?
That sounds good. I am wondering that for the applicants that we're interviewing, maybe what we could do is give out the resumes and cover letters of those candidates, but let's block out all the contact and redact all the contact information. And I would suggest, because the application will be a lot harder to redact. I mean, with the resume.
Because
Yeah.
We got to think that there's different personal information. There's the applicant personal information, and then they have references
Right.
and different jobs. So they might have salaries in it. So that's why we suggested going to public records, because I don't want to release any kind of information that could cause any negative consequences to the commission.
Yeah.
But that's something we could follow up to try to
Yeah.
have them in time.
Let's I think that if we could reach out to Amy, and see if just for the applicants that we're interviewing, and specifically just say maybe we just focus on the resume and just say, but can you redact any addresses, contact information, references, and like reference contact information, and then also redact any salary information, any financial information.
Commissioner Wong.
I have a question as to
Why, if we go through these resumes and if a commissioner sees an applicant that was overlooked, what can we do about it? Because now we're basically beholden to your recommendations, the 5 of you, which could be correct, but there's obviously, it's a commission that makes a generalized decision. It was the commission as a whole that was given the authority to give recommendations and interview. So do we have a process that if we feel strongly, I mean, it could be correct, but without, I mean, it's very difficult to tell from 2 lines whether that process was addressed carefully. And again, I want to emphasize, 5 people are now making a decision for the entire commission, and we have no way of going back on that. This is, so do you just, and if you could just answer the question without, will you allow, if we feel strongly, an applicant to be interviewed if a commissioner makes an appeal?
So I'll answer. So overall, the commission doesn't even make the final decision. We make it in partnership. So even if you make a all these candidates were discussed with all the individuals present, and I can read that again, just for the public record. All the candidates were discussed with all stakeholders, and then we all went around the table and voted on them. So you may present someone, but in general, the parties as a collective said no. No. We all agreed on these 5. And I can say their names again. Just for the record. Dr. Lee Anderson, Police Accountability Team, Executive Director. Chris Villan, Director of Public Safety. Assistant Director of Public Safety. He was the previous Inspector General from 2019 to 2021, and then he moved into IA from 2021 into 2024 before he moved in his current position. Jason Snackner, I might be butchering his name, I'm sorry. He's the Assistant Director of Public Safety. Delonte Spencer Thomas, City of Cleveland Chief of Ethics Officer. Carlos Johnson, City of Cleveland, I think, Police Accountability. Hannah, I don't know if she voted, but she was in the meeting. I can't remember at this point. Yeah, I don't know if she voted. Cleveland Community Police Representative, Co-Chair, John Adams. Co-Chair, Sharina Zayed. Chair, Adriana Rodriguez. So as a collective, the representatives voted on these candidates.
I would just like to add that this process is going through the same process that every other committee would take. The way that our commission functions is the work is primarily done in committees. And so with every committee, when training does their work, they do their work internally. They vote on it out of their committee, and then they bring it to the full commission for a full vote. When accountability does their work, when policy does their work, they do their work either in their work groups or their committees. They vote it out of committee, and then they send it to the full commission for a vote. When the budget and grants, then they do their work. When they have to pass parts of our budget and for the grants and things, they do their work in the committee. When the committee has completed its work, it votes on it, it sends it out of committee, it sends it back to the full commission. And so this committee, which is our Performance and Evaluations Committee, which was created out of the commander position when that came up in February. But this committee was created to do all of our recommendations and our nominations. The last time I checked, when you read the charter, the Inspector General is a recommendation that is in the charter. It is in the charter. And the charter, please stop interrupting me. There's one line in the charter. There's one line in the charter. And in that line, it mentions the Inspector General and the commander positions. It is one sentence in the charter. So if it was okay for us to bring the commander position to committee to then eventually go to full commission, when the IG is mentioned in the exact same sentence in the charter, it should go through that same process. So there's nothing improper to the public. There's nothing improper being done. We are simply following the process that we have created, that we follow on every committee that we have on this commission.
And
so
I also would like to mention
that
the last 4 commission was canceled too.
why?
Yeah, so that here nor there, right? So with all due respect, right?
of
Because we're working,
documents.
we're working in process, right? So we cannot wait 2 and 3 months, especially with a deadline. Commissioner Wong.
She's a member of the public.
She's really not a member.
And-
Well, I let Jan
I'm not a
speak
You
to
guys
it.
voted in May.
I'm not a member of the public. I'm
Just
still a
last comment,
commissioner.
this gonna be a last comment,
It's
cause
fine, give it-
we're gonna,
It
we're
doesn't
gonna,
matter. I'm
we're
getting
gonna
into it.
move forward.
My gosh, just stop, Rosie.
Just let her say her opinion.
Please bring the audience to
Please
order.
say-
Thank you. My God.
Just,
We're not the
please say your
audience.
opinion, please say your
Can
opinion.
you,
Please say your opinion.
can you please bring her to order? Thank you.
So what Co-Chair Adams says is not correct. There has been never a vote. This project, if you'll see, was housed under accountability. That's why there was a joint.
Okay,
Please
it
let
go,
me see,
it
let
go,
me,
it go.
let me finish. This was housed under accountability for various reasons because I was the only commissioner that actually was interested in the Inspector General process and happened to do work on it. And the record is there from May. He is not telling the truth. What they're doing right now in this commission that is troubling to me is that you're moving, it is recommendations, right? So I get it. But the Inspector General, please. The Inspector General, I can say whatever I want. Yes, I can.
Let it go, let it go.
What the Inspector General position, it is different from the Commander position because it is the primary watchdog.
Let it go.
But it is
Let it-
actually
let
a
her go
primary
over it.
watchdog to allow 5 commissioners, 3 of whom have been slandering me, lying about me on public record in violation of NACO's Code of Ethics to determine the candidates. So I'm asking, so let me play your game, Co-Chair Adams. You're saying that, so when we go through committee work, when we go, I'm not slandering you. You're on record lying about me. My question is, if everything can go through committee, we've had things gone through
Hold on, let me
committee.
just close it.
We have had things gone through committee and then we've turned it back to committee, right? We've reversed decisions. We've gone back to committee. That is what I'm asking. If we're not happy with these 5 candidates, and I don't know if we will be because we have no ability to see that without the resumes, are we able to go back? Because our job is to the community, not to like sit there and in a backdoor meeting with no accountability, work with 5 members, 6 members of the city government for the primary watchdog. Because right now, you have a lawsuit saying that OPS is not independent. You have a commission that is, shall we say, in disarray. And that the only thing that's left is the police inspector general. And we're leaving it up to commissioners that have acted improperly. And the only way to solve that, is to let the entire commission make the decisions. That is the only democratic way to solve
All
that.
right.
So if you don't want to
Stop,
do that,
stop.
if you don't, please call I'm still speaking, please call the person to order.
So we do,
No,
thank you
you
for your
cannot.
comments.
Are you,
No.
Please wrap it up. We have,
please, but
Rosie,
I'm not,
Rosie, stop,
Rosie,
everything is on camera. We're
I don't
under,
care. I don't care.
let me tell you.
she doesn't care, she
Let me tell
has
you,
brought,
we have a
she is
independent
promoting
investigation.
Jason
Everything
Goodrich
she
as
said,
the executive
there will come to
director,
order.
everybody
Okay,
has
she
their
will come to-
incidents.
Let it go, let it go.
I should be recognized as a commissioner, so then the only time, so if you're saying that the committee's decision
She
is
has
final,
spoke more
the
than
commission,
anyone.
that the committee has spoken, I'm a commissioner, please
Your
stop,
co-chair. I am
please stop.
Okay, Rosie.
I'm trying to speak.
Okay, I need you
If
to wrap it up.
I am gonna wrap it up, but if I'm being interrupted, it's gonna take a lot
No,
longer.
you spoke more than
Please,
Okay, Rosie,
I am
let
a
it go.
commissioner,
Let it go.
you are not a commissioner. Why don't you apply to the commission? I'm sure you'll do great on the commission, because the
Can
commission
you
is in
finish
prison.
so I can make a
So-
public comment?
What I'm saying is that if you are not able, if the committee's decision is final, that is not under Robert's rules. The commission's decision can supersede the committee. We've seen that with, like, recently with the evidentiary hearing process, that was blocked and sent back to committee, but then they still sent a bad draft, and now we have 59 comments on it. But my point is, if you are not allowing commissioners to do work in the full commission, that is probably a violation of the structure of the commission and structure of the charter. Because if you cannot take back a decision, committee members could make mistakes. It may not be nefarious, they could make mistakes. But what I'm asking you to do is asking you very clearly, if we see somebody, and I don't think that we will, maybe you guys are correct. Maybe everybody was correct. If we do see somebody that was overlooked, are we able to interview that person?
The answer is no, because all the parties voted.
All the parties, but not the commission.
Okay.
The commission did not make a
Okay,
recommendation.
thank you.
You are a winner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are, hold on, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to bring it back. Unfortunately, you know, everybody,
No, because that's not the commission. The commission's
Listen,
given the authority.
there's a variety of dynamics, and I think we can all say that we're very disheartened at it. We're gonna try to move along. We had a number of business items that we completed. We moved a lot of business forward. Unfortunately, we have a variety of different perspectives, and it did not go as planned. However, we're gonna try to finish it up. Do you have a comment that you would like to say?
Well, it's
And then we're gonna
question-
wrap this up.
It's a question about process. I just want to make sure that the comment that came, I think it was from Commissioner Benito, I'm not sure, that as part of the process, the people who are interviewing must interview all the candidates.
Or watch.
Yeah.
A watch, I mean,
They cannot
yeah,
just watch
they
the
can't
videos,
just do
shoot it.
one, and that's, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that that becomes part of the process. That's all.
Can I just say one last thing?
And then Benito,
I would just like to clarify for the public that I did not state that once it comes through the committee that that's it. It comes to the full commission, and then the full commission has a right, like every other piece of business that comes through from any other committee. The full commission has the right to vote that up or down. I'm just saying, I just want to be clear because that was a misinformation that was just stated to the public, and the whole point is that the actual decision is up to the full commission, but the work that comes to the full commission comes through the committee.
Commissioner Benito.
Do we have anticipated dates that we're trying to finish these interviews by?
So I would like hopefully sooner than later, but it depends on their schedule.
Okay.
So I'm gonna work with staff.
So in general, are they gonna be evenings?
So ideally, probably, I don't know. It depends on the candidate.
Yeah.
So
I think,
is there something you wanna propose as a
Well, I
target
guess-
day?
I think that I guess if you're asking these 4 people at the table to like be there, then I would suggest that either. Yeah, it could be a Saturday.
Because of time.
Yeah, it can be a Saturday or it can be evenings. Those are better for me. It's hard for me to do interviews during the day.
Okay. So we'll follow up, because I don't have a clear determination because
Yeah.
it's based on our schedule as
Totally get it.
as well as the candidates.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna close the business portion and move forward to public comment.
Okay, for the viewing public at home, my name's Rosie Palfy. I've been involved in police reform since 2015, since the commission's inception. I want to say that I'm very impressed with this committee's work. I was impressed with the slideshow that was presented. I viewed it at home, and excuse me, what I saw here was just there are no words. You voted in May to remove Commissioner Wong from all the committees. Okay, so the public, let me tell you something. I talk to a lot of people. There are a lot of people. If you go on YouTube, there are hundreds of people that watch your meetings. Okay, and I get text messages from city employees. Okay, so the public expected for Commissioner Wong to be sitting in the audience and to be able to make public comments, right? She wouldn't be silenced, but she would be able to make public comments, and then she could participate in the full commission meetings, right? Vote, ask her questions, make her comments, okay? So here's the situation. You've got committee members, you've got a committee chair, you have a commission co-chair, and this person who is supposed to be treated like a member of the public, okay, monopolized this meeting, spoke probably more than all of you put together. And let me tell you something. If this is going to continue, I'm going to show up at every meeting and I'm going to sit at the table, because if she has a seat at the table, then I should have a seat at the table. And one of Cleveland's finest can remove me. And that's another thing. We have a shortage of officers. We have 3 of Cleveland's finest here, and they're also short an officer because Officer Ritter was killed in line of duty. So it is absolutely ridiculous to have 3 babysitters here. Okay. So I hope that you guys please listen to this. And finally, regarding the investigation, it's a sham. Okay. I was interviewed by the I was asked to provide a letter by the assistant HR director. I provided it in March. So we are in August. Okay. And I have not been contacted by, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. I have not been contacted by this investigator. So if they were really serious about this work, I would have been contacted. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments?
Thank you.
Since none, we're going to move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexander, for letting me speak.
I'm gonna make it clear that if the meeting, if that happens again,
You can go violate the Constitution.
I'm just being clear.
Yeah.